And we're live. You always got to say that in a sexy voice. No. Hey, guys, today we've got with us Nick Gomillion. He's running for city council in Noblesville. He brought us some sweet swag. We got some cool stuff here as well. Thanks for the gifts, Nick. Got an awesome carrot. I actually needed one of these.
Yeah.
Yeah, so now I've got one. That's
there
perfect.
You go.
All right, cool. So thanks for coming in today. You know, love getting to talk to other guys in the community, especially people that are trying to serve the community as well. So tell us who Nick Gomillion is.
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks for having me, Will.
Definitely.
You and I go back to 2017.
Yeah. Gosh, is that it? It's been that long now, hasn't it? Yeah.
So I consider you a close friend.
Yeah.
As much as adults are friends these days, right? Yeah. So Nick Gomillion, I'm a husband. I'm a father. I have 4 beautiful, healthy daughters, so that's a challenge.
God bless you.
Yes,
4 daughters.
Pray for me. I am a human resources professional by day, and I'm a Christian involved in my church. And I have raised my hand and decided to run for city council in Noblesville. So looking to get elected this May 2nd on the Republican primary ballot.
That's awesome. Yeah. So why have you chosen? Well, actually, let me go back a little bit. Tell us about your HR experience and how you think that's going to apply and make you a good fit for what you're doing.
Yeah. So the way I say it is, I deal with drama at home. I deal with drama at work. I can surely deal with drama in the community, right? No. Yeah. No, so about the time I met you back in 2017, I was actually working like in a call center environment in leadership. So I'm supervisor at that point. But a family friend took me out to eat lunch, and she's like, what are you really passionate about in your career? And I said, well, people. I'm passionate about people. I was like, that's been the one constant throughout my different career changes have been the people I worked with. And I think that's the greatest asset any company has is to invest in its people, its teammates, its employees. And she said, well, have you ever thought about a career in human resources? And I was like, no, that has never crossed my mind.
Sounds lame.
Right. I was like, do guys even work in HR? And so she's like, come try it out. Come work for me. So I went and explored HR, learned all about payroll and benefits and compensation. But more importantly, I learned how to take care of employees. I learned about making sure that they feel recognized and listened to and rewarded. And so if you take care of your employees, they'll take care of your customers. Yeah. And, I saw that level of service firsthand. And that it's, the people that make me passionate about going to work every day. And so that's why I've stayed in HR since about the time we met. Yeah. So that level of service is then going to transcend over into the community as well. So I want to make sure, even though we're progressing, we're growing, we're doubling in population, buildings are cool and all the new construction, but let's not leave any people behind in the process. Yeah.
So what kind of responsibilities does a city councilman have? Like, I'm assuming it's kind of a smaller scale of what the mayor does, or maybe more parceled out to what the mayor does, but explain that a little bit.
Yeah. So if you think about government, most of us think of like on the national stage, right? Or even at a state level. So you have your executive branch, your judicial branch, and your legislative branch. So on the local level, the mayor is the executive branch, and the city council is the legislative branch. So it's kind of like the House and the Senate put together. Okay. And so in Noblesville, there's 9 councilors. There's 6 different districts, and then 3 are at large. And I'm actually running for one of the at-large spots. And the at-large covers the entire city. So if you're in the city or the township, you can vote for an at-large councilor.
Gotcha. So not just the district then.
Right. Okay. Yes. Yep. And so what we're doing is we're looking at zoning. We're passing ordinances or laws that affect your everyday. Yeah. So your local government, your municipal government actually impacts your life more than the national government. And so you think about, like, what's the speed limit in front of my house? What kind of business can I own, right? Yeah. What kind of house can I have? Can I add this onto my house? Those different kind of zoning rules and ordinances, that's the kind of stuff that city government deals with. Yeah. Budgets. So Noblesville has a $105 million budget. Wow. So it's managing that wisely, making sure that we're taking the taxpayers' dollars, my dollars, and using them for good growth, controlled growth, and we're not just spending willy-nilly,
Not just putting a ton of roundabouts in.
Yeah. I'm not going to waste our money on or the sculptures that go in the middle of the
sculptures. What did Scott call those? Yard art?
Yes.
Yeah. No. I was telling him about my favorite. Actually, my wife pointed this out. Again, one of the things I love about my wife Monica is she stops and smells smells the roses. I don't. And so she pointed this out a year or two ago when we moved down to Carmel. And there's one at 126th and Gray that is it's a rock, paper, scissors. And I was like, I would never have caught that, but it's funny, and that's my favorite one in Carmel.
I thought you were going to talk about the one that's supposed to be the sun. Have you seen that one?
No, where's that one at?
It's a big circle with these little like black dashes all over it, and it's supposed to be the sun, is what I'm told.
Okay,
but it actually looks like a giant nutsack.
Oh, okay. So you're gonna have to tell me what cross streets these are on, because I want to go drive past this.
Carmel, actually, there were so many people complaining they actually moved it, so I don't know where it is now.
Really?
Yes.
Because complaining that it looked too much like a nutsack.
Yeah, everybody said that. So. But that's Carmel for you, right?
Oh, that's great. Carmel has done a lot of great things and done a lot of things well. We're in debt, but there's plans to get out of that. So, anyways, but that is pretty funny. And roundabouts have been nice because they move a lot faster than stop signs. It's just, should we have done them all at once? I don't know. That's not for me to decide. That's way above my pay grade. So,
yeah.
Anyways, cool. So, okay, so that's your experience in HR. Where did you go to school?
So I'm originally from Mississippi,
okay.
Born and raised. I know it doesn't sound like it. Everyone says, you don't sound like you're from Mississippi. Well, thanks to my mother, she put me in choir. I had to take Latin. I took all this stuff, right? And they teach you to enunciate. So I don't sound like the guy they interview on TV and they're like, hey, how are you doing out here? Y'all over yonder? So, everyone's like, you don't sound like you're from Mississippi. So It's not an act. I was actually born and raised there. So first 21 years of my life. Married a Hoosier. It's her fault. I moved up here.
Yeah.
Had to learn how to drive in the snow. And so that's how I got here.
Mm-hmm.
What was the rest of the question?
School.
Yeah, so I went to Millsaps College,
okay.
Private liberal arts college in Jackson, Mississippi.
Okay.
It's affiliated with the United Methodist Church. I grew up a PK, preacher's kid. My father was a United Methodist pastor. My mom was a civil engineer. I always say my sister was the bad preacher's kid. So there's always one, right? So she's the black sheep.
Gotcha.
I'm the good preacher's kid.
Hopefully she listens to this.
Yeah. I'm going to send it to her.
Please do.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I will.
good.
Don't
Okay.
worry. She's down in Florida right now, so she deserves that.
There you go.
So went to college. So it was actually my third choice.
Okay.
So I actually started off in Nashville. I was going to go into music business. Mm-hmm. So I went to Belmont University for a semester.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, blew all my money on concerts.
Uh-huh.
So I was going to concerts like 3 nights a week in Nashville.
Yeah,
I was going to party with the kids at Vanderbilt,
right.
The rich kids.
Mm-hmm.
And so my parents are like, we're paying too much for this. And I was like, they're like, come back home.
That's hilarious.
So I came back, transitioned to college. I thought I wanted to be a pastor like my dad.
Mm-hmm.
And so my next major was Christian studies.
Okay.
And then I got a D in Old Testament, and I'm like, maybe this is not for me. And so at the time I was taking some philosophy courses.
Yeah.
I was like, this is really deep stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I like this, thinking about what is time, what is life,
mm-hmm.
What is the meaning of life.
Yeah.
And so I ended up being a philosophy major, wasting my parents' money, right? And so people always ask, well, what are you going to do with this philosophy major?
Yeah.
And I was just burnt out on college at the time.
Sure.
And the only thing you really do with it is get a PhD and teach.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't about to do that. So I got married, like I said, married a Hoosier. We moved to Indiana, started working at a bank.
Mm-hmm.
So should have gone with the business degree probably. But ended up at the bank anyway and, worked at a bank for a while. Transitioned to another finance company. So the background kind of started in finance,
mm-hmm.
and then, like I said, transitioned over to HR. And actually now I'm in a healthcare company, but HR, you can transfer industries.
Yeah.
It's transitional. So
mm-hmm. It's just dealing with people.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that philosophy, like the teachings you learned through that, do you feel like those helped with learning how to deal with people or how to walk people through life a little bit?
Well, definitely, because you start off and it teaches you to think critically, to
mm-hmm.
analyze the situation, to ask why,
mm-hmm.
and it also helps you to empathize with people.
Interesting.
I like to read perspectives that are not my own. I don't listen to podcasts or read books of people that think the way I do.
Mm-hmm.
I challenge myself by, I read books by Democrats,
yeah.
or the left.
Mm-hmm.
I try to look at, Eastern philosophy, not just Western philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
So how do other people view this life? How do they view the world? And in that way, I can better communicate. I can better empathize. I can understand where they're coming from. And we actually have a lot more in common than we think.
Oh, yeah.
I personally believe we're all made in the image of God.
Mm-hmm.
So every human life has value. And so even the person that completely believes different than I do still has value.
Yeah.
Because they were created by our Creator.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. Most of us aren't as divided as we think.
Yeah.
But social media and being behind a computer all day and not socializing and interacting with people of different thoughts and different beliefs, that's where we've grown to such a divide. And that has really affected, I mean, the human condition, so to speak. I was talking with somebody about these AIs and automation, not so much AI, but automations of sales processes. And I think how you and I connected originally was on LinkedIn, right?
Yes.
Well, I would send 30 to 50 messages a day when I was in direct sales to new potential clients through LinkedIn, on top of making 85 cold calls a day, on top of finding about 100 prospects a day on my own as well. And what they've done through this one company is automated that LinkedIn message. And I feel like it's it's a great tool, but I feel like now it's so overused that it has now cheapened that process to the point where people get a message on LinkedIn and they completely ignore it. Just like when they get a phone call from a number they don't recognize, they ignore it because they know it's just going to be an automated thing rather than a person on the other end. Either that or, somebody you can barely understand from somewhere overseas. And so it's cheapened that process to the point. But what I think that's going to force us to do is go back to connecting in person again, and going back to a referral network or going back to, building real relationships with people so that you can grow a business, and I think that is pretty cool, because so in a way, this has been kind of a detriment to, sales positions and things like that. But I think on the flip side of that, it's actually going to make us come out better.
Yes.
At least I hope it will.
Yeah, well, I believe as human beings, we crave human interaction.
Oh, for sure.
Like we need community.
Mm-hmm.
We need, to communicate with another human being.
Yeah.
And so, even with the pandemic, like that has shown us that we can't just all be closed up in our houses.
Mm-hmm.
People go crazy.
Yeah.
My bourbon collection doubled during COVID. So, I need to quit staying up at night watching Netflix and drinking bourbon, right?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Maybe not. But still, like you said, human interaction is important. It's vital. And I've noticed that even out knocking doors. So, out trying to get votes.
Are you actually outdoor knocking?
Oh, yeah. I take my daughters with me, too.
Oh.
So.
That's a good sales tactic.
That's right. Yeah, they think I'm selling Girl Scout cookies.
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
So they open the door immediately, and they're like,
"That's
hey.
hilarious."
No,
hey,
but everyone's
no
got
cookies for you.
Everyone's got these Ring doorbells now.
Yeah.
Or the digital. And even with that, people don't want to answer the door.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like we've created technology to now help us avoid people even further.
Yeah.
And so they'll just talk to you through the doorbell.
Well, and it sucks too because unfortunately we have a lot of bad people ruining that kind of stuff for us. There's home invasions all over the place, even in good neighborhoods. And those tools were developed to. And see, this is where everything has good and bad, right? Like social media, for what it was originally intended for, was good. It was connecting people together. Well, what has it become? It's actually dividing people more now, right? I'm trying to think of another scenario. I've thought about, the medical world. Big Pharma was originally intended to help and cure people. And what has it become? It's become a money grab and a greedy scheme. And there is so many conspiracies that go into that most of which are true, and I think we're finding that more and more the more access to information we get. So there's good and bad in everything. Unfortunately, with Ring doorbell, it's maybe protecting people from getting the home invaded, but it's also keeping people that are just wanting to meet their community out as well. So but you're completely right. Like people need human interaction, and we were designed to have human interaction. Yep. We need that. Now, some of us need to recharge on our own. I'm one of those that I love being around people, and I love being around my people, but I don't love big groups. I don't love surface level, bullshit. I just want, if I'm going to have a conversation with somebody, I want it to be a real conversation. And then I go home and I recharge, by myself in a dark room.
Yeah.
Maybe next to a fire, reading a book.
I get that.
That's how I recharge. But my wife, she says I'm a introvert. Yeah. And I kind of see that. I turn it on when I need to. But yeah, and that's one thing that I think sales was great in doing, is getting me out of myself. Right. It forced me to go float people. Like when I was at this one company, they'd just be like, float that person. And you'd have to like go out and strike up a conversation with somebody random and then try to get their business card and then try to sell them something.
Yeah, no, I get that because I'm naturally an introvert, you know, and it's through my career I've had to get outside of my comfort zone, get out of your box, right?
Yeah.
And you have to push yourself in those certain situations. Now, you know, it doesn't mean we avoid it, but you know, we do have to go recharge. You know, we have like you have to get yourself hyped up, right? And you go do the thing, do the speech, you know, do the presentation, and then afterwards you're just like, oh, I'm exhausted, right? And you're like, I need to be alone.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, I find those situations to be exhausting for me.
Yeah.
So yeah. So Nick, what does service mean for you? What does that look like?
Yeah. So. You know, I'm more of the school of, you know, John Maxwell, servant leadership. So it's about, you know, investing in other people, wanting to see other people succeed. And I actually found the most joy when I was leading people, when I had a team at work. I had about 12 direct reports. Anytime somebody came to me and they said, this is what I want to grow to in my career, you know, this is the level I want to get to, helping them get to that stage. That's where I found the most joy, was seeing them succeed. So it's like one person wanted to be an account executive. So well, how do we get you there? Well, there's some trainings you could do. You get certified. You go do a ride along with an account executive to see what that job is actually like. And then when they actually get the job after the interview process, you know, and you help them, you know, practice the interview, and then they go in and they nail it. You know, you just feel so good for that person to see them succeed. And that's the kind of service I like. You know, I like to help others succeed because then I feel like I've fulfilled something in myself as well, right?
Yeah.
And it goes back to my faith too. You know, we're supposed to serve others. You know, just as Jesus served the disciples, just as he served us, sacrificed himself for us. You know, as a Christian, I believe we're supposed to serve our community.
Yeah.
And so that's the kind of leadership I want. Again, going back to people-focused leadership. You know, I'm here to serve people. I'm not here to serve, you know, this, you know, pie in the sky dreams
machine,
of you know, of building these skyscrapers and things like that, or you know, cool new buildings. You know, I'm here for people.
Yeah.
So
how does that leadership transfer or translate over to, you know, people that may not see eye to eye with you on political beliefs?
Yeah. So again, it goes back to seeing value in every human being. You know, someone that is diametrically opposed to me, I still see value in them.
Yeah.
Right. So I look at it from a spiritual lens. So I have to separate. I'm not fighting against flesh and blood. I'm not fighting this human being opposed to me. There's a spirit here between us that is diametrically opposed.
Yeah. Right.
So they could have, like, you know, a demonic spirit, or they could have a dark spirit or something, you know what I'm saying? So it's positive and negative, but it's not, you have to remind myself, this person has value. I'm not fighting that person. I'm fighting this mentality. And so it's listening and trying to understand where they're coming from. Usually, like in HR, when I'm doing investigations or I'm interviewing people, you know, they'll come in and their emotions are heightened.
Yeah.
So it's how do you diffuse that situation, first of all? And then you try to understand, you ask questions, understand the why. So you're thinking critically, you're analyzing the situation, and you're trying to find that nugget of truth. You know, what is it that led you to this mentality, this state of mind? And sometimes it's valid, and sometimes it's just heightened emotions, right? Sure. But it's trying to get past the name calling, the cursing, all of that, to try to understand where they're coming from. Yeah. And then, like I said, we can find common ground. Yeah. And so let's come to consensus. And that's the kind of leader I want to be. Yeah.
I think most of the time you can find common ground with people, especially when you get the emotions out of it. Yeah. You know, the biggest thing I always tell people is when you're approaching somebody about an issue or a problem, going at them with, you know, open arms rather than your fists up and throwing punches. You know, as soon as you elevate their emotions, they put a wall up. If you go on the offensive, they immediately get defensive. You can see that in your kids too. Oh, man. Yeah. I feel like having kids. I know just
what buttons to push for the kids. Too.
Exactly. Yeah. I feel like having kids is one of the most eye-opening experiences on how to deal with people, because at every level, or at you know, the lowest level of what it is you're dealing with your 3-year-old child. When people get emotional,
your 3-year-old self.
Yeah. When people get emotional, that's what you're dealing with. Right, yeah. And so knowing how to, but the difference is they can reason, right? Well, we would at least hope most people can reason. But they can reason. So if you get past that emotion and then keep them from putting a defensive wall up, usually people are actually pretty open to hearing what you have to say. But I think when all you try to do is go at people offensively, which I think a lot of people do, and that's what social media feeds on, right? They don't want to hear somebody going, "Oh, let me hear your opinion, and then let me speak my opinion." No, they want to hear the guys going, and this comes from both sides. They want to hear the guys going, "Screw the liberals, we love guns, we love freedom, Trump, all that kind of stuff." And then from the other side, "Hey, we love, drag shows, and we want drag shows in schools so the kids can see that," and that's offensive to the other side, And if you just, guys, let's lower the emotion a little bit, and let's talk and figure out, okay, what kind of issues are in these schools? Do you think that's going to help that issue or exacerbate it?
Right.
And I think we get, especially when it comes to kids and sexuality and things like that. They don't need to know that they don't need to figure that out until they're older.
Right.
They let them figure that out as they're adults and as they have a brain that can rationalize.
Yes.
Because they can't rationalize at 5 years old or even 10 years old.
I would argue from 18 to 21 you can't rationalize.
No.
But at least 18 they would be of legal age.
Right. So. Right. At least at that point they're legal age. I think they should raise that legal age, by the way. Yeah. Adults should not be until you're 21. And even then that's pushing it because 25 is when you're fully developed.
Yeah. I might have been 30. So.
Yeah. It's I'm right there with you. I think maybe 20, maybe 29. Yeah. I also had kids really young, so that helped the situation a little bit. But
right.
That's crazy. So you've mentioned you have a strong faith.
Yes.
And how do you think that's going to help, with running for city council? Because in this world, in this climate, people hear that and they're like, nah, dog.
No, I know immediately that people are going to be turned off. There's a certain group, certain demographic that will say, "There's no way I'm going to listen to him now." Yeah. And it goes back to attaching labels, right? You just immediately assume someone's a certain way because of a characteristic,
sure,
or an attribute, or something I associate with. But for me, I can't divide my faith from my life. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's who I am.
Part of who you are, yeah.
And it's like in my DNA. And so I can just try to build a bridge. Mm-hmm. I can try to listen to people. I can try to show them love. I can show them service, show them kindness, and then maybe through my actions, they'll open up.
Yeah.
And then I'm not trying to proselytize to them.
Sure.
But I am trying to show them the love of Jesus Christ through my actions.
Yeah.
One of my 4 pillars. So in running for government, local government, I came up with 4 pillars. So one is public safety, the second one's infrastructure, third one's community, and the fourth one is kindness.
Okay.
And so it kind of spells an acronym, PICK, pick. So pick, like picnic.
Yeah. There we go.
Yeah,
I like that.
See, my daughter actually came up with that.
That's good.
Picnic. So that's my marketing slogan right there. But kindness, like we've been talking about, it's missing from public discourse these days. Mm-hmm. I mean, everything's so sensational. Yeah. They just put clickbait all over media and the newspaper. It's just they just put it in the title and people are immediately outraged. They don't read anything in the article.
Right.
And this week it's all about Bud Light and transgenders and things like that. So it's just so sensational, right? And I heard a pastor put it really good one time. It was people that are more conservative on the right are concerned with righteousness. So they want things to be right, truth, what is truth, what is black and white, right? People on the left are more concerned with social justice. Are people being treated fairly? Are things just? And those two ideas are both good.
Yeah.
We need both. We need things to be just, but we also need things to be right.
Yeah.
And there is truth. There is absolute truth. It can't all be relative from my philosophy days, right? Yeah. We can't have moral relativism where everyone can just do as they please. Mm-hmm. There has to be right and wrong. But we also need to not leave people behind and not be so greedy that we overlook those that are starving, those that don't have food and shelter and clothing, those pregnant women that don't feel like they have anywhere to go, right? And so you can't just push those people to the side. So yes, there need to be people advocating for those people, but we don't need to forsake truth
Yeah.
for advocation,
Well, I was listening to a conversation earlier this morning, and it was talking about how what we need to do is level the playing field, right? Equality is not going to happen. It just isn't, because everybody is different. There are guys that work 80 hours a week. You're not going to make as much money as that person.
No.
And then there are guys that don't want to work 20 hours a week, and that person isn't going to make much money. I would hope they can at least provide for themselves. But, that's the motivations are different. Everybody starts at a different point. Everybody has their own path, and everybody has their own work ethic and their own driving force behind what they do. I used to be very money motivated until I realized what that money motivation was, and what it was freedom. And so money for me, once I get that freedom, I don't want necessarily more money, because then what that does is entrap me more to, by taking more of my time to get to that money. So, for me, it came down to freedom. And so my motivation is different than the guy who maybe grew up in the Bronx and was living on breadcrumbs, and then, now he's gotten an opportunity to go hustle and be a billionaire. I'm probably not going to be as rich as that dude, at least from a financial standpoint. I would say that my life is just as rich, because I have, great family. I've figured out, we're always figuring it out, but I've gotten closer to that mark of figuring out balance between family and faith and fitness and and that freedom. So I think, where the government needs to come into play is how can we level the playing field, not how can we get equality. And that takes other rights out of it.
Yeah, I mean, equality of opportunity, not equality of outcome.
Right.
So you get out of it what you put into it, right? But we need to help people get to the starting line.
Yeah. Something stupid that I heard in this conversation was that somebody was saying that they think anybody that makes over $3 million a year should be taxed 90%. I'm like, that is ridiculous.
Well, back in the 50s and 60s, they were taxed like 75%.
Really?
Yeah, and then Kennedy comes in, and he lowers it.
Okay.
And so.
See, and I disagree with that though, because I disagree with taxing the person who makes more, taxing them a higher percentage, and the reason why is because that person. He's worked his ass off to get to that point, and he's probably worked harder than the guy who makes $300,000 a year, and that's where, even go down to $30,000 a year, right? He's probably worked harder than that $300,000 person has worked harder than that $30,000 person. So why should we take more from the person who's working harder? Now that doesn't mean that everybody shouldn't pay. I believe everybody should pretty much pay an equal percentage of tax. Obviously that's going to grow. The more the more income you make. It's somebody who's making, let's say we tax everybody 30%. Somebody's making $100,000 is only paying 30, but somebody's making $1 million is paying $300,000. I think that makes a lot more sense. Now I know that taxes aren't really the conversation here, but
it does hurt the person on the lower end though more than it hurts the billionaire. If you think about if 30% of your 100,000, that's 30,000 chunk out, right? That's going to hurt a lot more, I think, than let's say 100 million. Right.
Sure. I see what you're saying there. Yeah.
So, I mean, I like the gradual steps that we have, the gradual percentages. I personally think so. I don't disagree with you. People, working hard should be justly rewarded, and I think people in sales do that.
Oh yeah.
But there's a lot of CEOs and presidents of corporations and companies that have just been there a long time. It's not like they necessarily worked any harder than anyone else.
But
the pay gap between the C-suite and your lower tier management and your employees is so ridiculous nowadays.
What about on those companies that have been and see, I guess this is where there's such a gray area, right? Because you have the executives who maybe have just been there a long time. However, they may have had a lot of stress, a lot of politics they had to play, and all that kind of stuff to get there. Now, in sales position, completely different. The guy who makes $300,000 a year is making it.
He's working his tail off.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But in that situation, there may be those guys who really have just been there long enough where they got on their knees for the right person, that kind of thing, that then get to that level. But then what about the entrepreneurs who become a CEO?
Yeah.
Those guys have worked way harder than the guy who just got handed the position. Now, again, probably wasn't just handed the position. There's probably things that went into that. But usually in the corporate environment, it's just playing your politics right or knowing the right people. In the entrepreneur world, if you've gotten to that CEO level, a real CEO. I'm going to clarify that not all entrepreneurs that say they're a CEO are a CEO. Ask for their tax return, because guarantee you their entity is not making much money most of the time. But a true CEO of a let's say a guy who started $1 million a year revenue company from nothing. That dude's worked his ass off to get at that point, or played his cards right. So should that dude be taxed as much? That's my thought.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, we're digressing here, but I guess that's what this is. This platform's for.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So, tell us a little bit more about some of the issues you see and how you plan to go about making Noblesville a better place.
Yeah. So, going back to my 4 pillars, number 1 was public safety.
Mm-hmm.
I really feel like you can't have any other goals until everyone feels safe.
Okay. What do you mean by public safety?
So I mean having adequate police, fire, and paramedics. I mean that when you call the police station, they're there.
Yeah.
As soon as possible, right? They're there to diffuse the situation. You have low crime rates.
Mm-hmm.
You have low homicide rates. You can look to Indianapolis for poor examples of that currently, and that has to do with leadership.
Yeah.
And I think people at the leadership, in the government leadership level, need to take accountability for that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And so, crime rates and homicide rates directly reflect on the mayor and the city council.
Sure.
And so, I would take that personally.
Mm-hmm.
I want to make sure that police and fire, 40% of our budget goes toward police and fire.
Okay.
And I want to always make sure they're well funded.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
do you guys have enough police per capita and firemen per capita currently?
Well, we're hiring 5 more police and I think 3 more firefighters this year. We'll get us up to where we currently are. So there's 70,000 people in Noblesville.
Okay.
But like I said, we're scheduled to double in the next 10 years. So we need to go ahead and be proactive and hire more police, hire more firemen, and paramedics.
It's the only way you stay ahead of it.
Yeah, we want to stay ahead of it because I want those response times to be minimal. So it's making sure they have the best technology, the best equipment, that they have up-to-date things. They will always get full support from me.
Yeah.
I'm always going to vote to spend more money on them, even if we have to move things around. So that's number 1, public safety. I feel like you have to feel safe in your community. I've lived in Noblesville 16 years, and I could have slept every night with my door unlocked. I haven't, just out of habit, but I've never had...
You may get a knock at the middle of the night now.
I've never had any issues. I'm knocking on wood right now.
Yeah.
And so it's that kind of safety. You feel comfortable, right? And you can, you feel like you're a part of a safe place, right? And so people don't want to lose that as you grow, as more people come in. And statistically, it may go up. That's just the way it is.
Yeah.
But let's be proactive in planning for that. How do we, let's hit it head on.
Yeah.
Besides that, we really have a lack of affordable housing. So right now you've got inflation, you've got the market. If you're in real estate, you probably know that there's minimal houses to choose from. And so a lot of these cities are going to these mixed-use developments. They've got retail space, they've got apartments, they've got lease to own, they've got these little townhouses, all trying to get people into these downtown locations for supporting small business and shopping and eating and all that stuff. But I heard this figure the other day. You can't build in Hamilton County brand new construction under, for like a residence, single family home, under $300,000. Like $300,000. There's people that can't even get in the market.
Yeah.
And you think about millennials and Gen Z that have been staying in apartments or living at home with their parents, trying to save up money. Maybe they're paying off student loans. How are they ever going to get into the housing market? Like they're just going to be renting the rest of their lives.
Right.
Is what it sounds like. And then you've got boomers that are starting to retire, and maybe they want to downsize.
Yeah.
But how did they go from a house that they're going to turn around and sell and make a profit on to now an apartment, a single bedroom apartment, $1,500 a month? My mortgage is less than that.
Yeah.
Why are you paying $1,500 a month for a single bedroom apartment, right?
Those are some pretty damn nice apartments, though.
I mean, they're nice. They got cool amenities, right? You got your gym and your restaurant and your bingo and all that
pool,
stuff. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
But seriously, again, going back to people, like I don't want to leave people behind. I don't want people living in their cars now because the cost of everything has gone up.
Do you feel like they have to? Because I look at that and it's like, okay, well, do you have to earn living in a nice place? Like, does it? Because there is Indianapolis, right? You could go to Greenfield. You could go to Avon and probably build less than that. And if you really want to live in Hamilton County, cool. You just gotta work your tail off. I mean that.
Or
I know
get
that,
the right opportunity. It's
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, but that's what we're running into. There's
Yeah.
people having to live in Madison County, Marion County, surrounding counties, and then commute in
Okay.
to work a retail job, making $15 an hour, maybe.
Yeah.
And it's like they can't afford to live here, but they can work here.
Yeah.
So Noblesville does have like Section 8, Section 42 income-based housing.
Oh, really? Okay.
So there's other cities, Carmel, that don't have those amenities for people in those pay brackets, right? And so it's how do we address every socioeconomic group? I don't think that an area should push people out just because they're in a different, socioeconomic class.
Sure.
But
do you think that opening that up to more socioeconomic groups can cause more, issues as well?
Well, I mean, so if we look at data, it's a possibility. I did a ride along with the police in Noblesville. I do understand that some of our lower, housing income-based, apartments and housing, that is where a lot of the police calls occur.
Sure.
Right? But I don't want to stereotype people and just assume just because you can't afford X amount of dollar house or an apartment that, you're, a juvenile or you should be incarcerated.
Well, and that's where leveling the playing field comes in,
Yeah.
right? Because like if it costs, let's just say $60,000 a year to live in Carmel, pay for groceries, and have a minimal car payment, which is usually what people need to commute, especially in a suburban area. You're not riding your bike everywhere. You have to be able to drive. So if, you don't have to have a nice car. You don't have to have a friggin' Maserati or G-Wagon like, West Carmel does. But you need something that's reliable. So let's say, moderate car payment, a mortgage of $1,000, $1,500 a month, which you can't even get right now, without a big down payment. So there is that. You level the playing field as far as the income goes. If you work in Hamilton County, you should also be able to live in Hamilton County. So how do we get everybody to making, what the minimum amount is to be able to live here? Because, one of the big problems I was talking about with Scott was that we have, our Westfield policemen. Most of them cannot afford, without, being independently wealthy or having a spouse maybe that makes more money, they can't afford to live in Hamilton County. And I don't know about you, but I'd love to have my Westfield police officers living down the street from me, and have them not only working in the community, but being a part of that community as well, because then they're going to care about it more too. So being able to make sure that, especially like service employees, are able to live where they work, so they can be a part of that community if they choose to be. Right? You don't want to force them to be here if they want to, but. Yeah. So I guess, not to cut you off there, but I feel like that's where leveling the playing field really comes into play.
Yeah, and I mean, how do you envision that, leveling? Do you see it's just...
I have no idea.
Yeah.
That's for you to figure out.
That's for me to figure out, right?
Yeah. But, like that I think that comes into who you're, Carmel, the way they have lightened the tax burden. Because my property taxes are less than they were when I lived in Westfield.
Yours are less than Noblesville.
Yeah. And they've done that by spreading that tax burden to the corporations and the companies they're bringing in. So, what's Noblesville's plan to with all that development? What's Noblesville's plan to not put that tax burden more on their citizens?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's temporary, right? So until we get the amount of corporations that Carmel has, until we have, the amount of businesses we can then siphon taxes from them, then ours will go down eventually as well, right? And so Carmel is kind of maxed out, right? You've used up all your green space. Noblesville still has room to grow.
Yeah.
And so we've still got farmland we're developing. So as that gets built out, as we bring in more corporations, then that tax burden can transfer from the taxpayers to the corporations.
Okay. Got it. So that is kind of the plan for Noblesville.
Yes,
then.
that is the plan, yeah.
Okay. I know that's what Westfield's trying to work on as well, is how to do that. It's tough because Westfield's kind of landlocked ourselves, at least in the downtown area. So it's figuring all that out. I know has been a big hurdle for them to jump. But yeah, I don't know how you level that playing field. That I think is, if you can, if maybe, because I don't love like being required to pay a minimum wage of some sort. Now, with that said, the people that work, for me, they are paid very well. They're paid above minimum wage. So I want to clarify that. But they also, I feel like they've earned it. They work their tails off, and they I want to create a happy work environment so that they want to be here, you know?
Well, it goes back to taking care of your people, right?
There we go.
And as a free market capitalist, you know, I think whichever corporation or business is offering the best, you know, pay, benefits, culture, I think people are going to go there, just like you would buy the best product, right?
Right.
And so it's going to be up to these individual business owners to entice people, right, to raise that wage on their own.
Right.
I don't think government's the best source of leveling the playing field, right?
Right.
So we don't need more bureaucracy. We don't need more red tape.
We need less bureaucracy, yeah.
As we've all seen, the government is terrible at rolling out any kind of plan or process.
Yeah.
They would just create a new bureau, and then you'd have to wait on checks.
And then print more money.
Yeah, there you go, print more money.
Right.
Yeah. So I think it goes back to your, you know, you as a business owner.
Right.
Yeah. So you take care of people. People are going to say, I want to work for Legacy.
Right.
And so then maybe they make enough to live in Westville. How about that?
Yeah, there you go. I don't know about that. Yeah, no. Well, and that's where, I don't know, corporations are tough ones to figure that out with, though. And those are really going to be the ones supporting the community. Yeah. You know, we pay our taxes here. But at the end of the day, like, it's not your entrepreneurs and your small business owners who are really fronting the majority, at least when they're small, you know. Hopefully the small businesses around here grow, you know, if they want to, but it's really going to be up to the corporations. It's going to be up to the, you know, Zotex, who else am I thinking of up here? Agri-Reliant, you know, it's going to be those bigger companies that are going to be the ones that are going to really be helping with the tax burden. So enticing people to come work for them and bringing more cool companies in, right? Because I think that's the other thing. Like, you look at what we've got around Westfield right now, there's really not a ton of work opportunity. Most people commute from here to either Carmel or downtown to work. So how do you bring more of those companies in? How do you entice more of those companies in?
Yeah. So most cities have like an economic development or redevelopment commission, and that's kind of like your marketing team, right? So they're out marketing the city. They're out trying to bring in this business. And then the local government, you know, what I'm running for is making sure that, you know, we give them something to entice them, right? Maybe that's a tax increment financing or something along those lines to get them, you know, to come to our city.
Yeah.
To join us and then grow their business there and offer jobs and be a part of the community.
What usually entices companies like that? I know tax abatements are a big one, you know, but what else kind of entices corporations like that to come in and set up shop? Yeah,
I mean, you know, is there a lot of infrastructure already in place? You know, is there utilities and water? Are the amenities great for the city? Is the city growing or is it kind of stagnating?
Okay.
You know, are there enough people there to support, you know, the employee population?
Yeah.
And, you know, I again, it's like, you know, free market, right? So that's kind of how Hamilton County is. It's a bunch of great cities all competing against each other for business. You know, Westfield, Carmel, Noblesville, you know, Fishers. We're all in this, like, trying to get the same companies to come to us. So it's like the company puts out an RFP and we all just jump on it. So a little friendly competition there.
Hey, it's good. Friendly competition. That's what capitalism is built on, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
And so, you know, that's what we're doing. And like I said, Noblesville has the most green space. We have the most land to actually grow on.
Yeah.
Whereas, you know, Carmel's landlocked. Fishers is almost, you know, expanded. They're almost landlocked. You know, Westfield and Noblesville are really the only two with green space left. And so, you know, I want to make sure we're using it wisely.
Yeah.
We're not just grabbing up, you know, land. And I'm a big conservationist, so I want to make sure that we're keeping parks and recreation areas, anything historic we're protecting. So
I think that's something that's really cool about Noblesville. There's a lot of, and maybe it's because it's the county's capital, but there's a lot of historic buildings there. And like the town square in Noblesville is super cool. A friend of mine, Mike, owns one of the buildings there. And we're gonna have him on here soon too, and he's got a plan to, like, he wants to buy up as much of that business or as much of those buildings as he can, you know. But he's like, we need to bring more businesses in to get more, you know, he said there's a lot of businesses that come into that town square and then fail.
Yeah.
And it's because there's not enough traffic coming through because you've got too many attorneys' offices and whatnot. So, how do you bring more businesses into the downtown square that are going to liven that place up?
Right.
It sounds like you guys may need a CrossFit gym down there, too.
Maybe that's the answer. We need a gym
there we go.
on the square.
Legacy 2.0 in Noblesville. Here
Awesome.
we go.
Here we go. Can there be like a candy store right next to it?
Ooh, I dig that. Everybody needs that high glycemic spike right afterwards. So
It could be, what do we call it? Legacy candy?
Ooh, I don't know. We'll have to come up with a sexy name for that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
something.
figure that out. I feel like I can only put legacy in front of so many things before people are going to be like, really? Another one? What do we got? 3 now? Legacy Insurance, Legacy Athletics, and Legacy Mines. Yeah, so I think we probably should stop there.
Okay.
Yeah. But we'll come up with something. We could come up with a cool candy shop name.
There you go.
The Candy Shack. We're going off topic. Okay, so what? I guess are there plans to liven up the town square at all too? Bring more people in.
Yeah. So right now we're actually building, again, mixed use development. So we got these apartments going in. There's retail on the bottom floor, restaurants. One's called the Levinson, and one is called Nexus.
Okay.
We've also got one called East Bank, and we've got some townhouses going in called the Lofts on
cool.
10th. And so all of that is, again, to bring people into the downtown corridor so that they're shopping, eating, they're within walking distance of all these things so they can support these small businesses.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the thinking behind it, is because now you have 800 new rental units within walking distance of the square.
Yeah.
So, again, helping to support our small businesses through bringing them their customer base.
Yeah.
And then we would hope these people, would work and eat and play and everything in downtown Noblesville.
Well, when people are paid well too, or paid, at least above average, they also spend their money, which also pours back into the economy.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Like that's why I used to be very stingy with my money, and I'm still stingy. You can ask my wife, but I'm way better than I used to be. And I love like going to Rivet Coffee. Shout out, Allie. You're welcome. Love going to Rivet Coffee. Love going to Indie Coffee Roasters. I have no problem paying $3.50 for a cup of coffee because I know it's supporting some friends that I also know own that business,
right.
And it supports it pours back into the economy. I think the more people that have that mindset too, it's less of a poverty mindset, more of an abundance mindset of hey, it's going to come back to me.
Right.
It's fine. Love a good cup of coffee. Love sitting down and having conversations with people. And love supporting local businesses that have similar beliefs or, want to see this community grow as well.
There you go.
Yeah. Is Carmack's Cigar Shop still on?
Still there.
Oh, man.
I'm usually there on Saturdays.
Oh, okay. All right. That was the first cigar shop I had, I'm trying to think here. No, that wasn't the first cigar I had because my mom was a hippie and I smoked my first cigar when I was 12 out in Cave Creek, Arizona, outside of the bar. No. Not quite.
Like a legit cigar?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. What was my first one? It was I want to say it was what's the one that starts with an A? Not Acid. Although I think I got one of those because I thought it looked cool, and then I didn't even light it. I put my mouth on it, and I was like, don't flavor cigars. Not Avanti, Avo.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe there was that. Yeah, it was a really light one. Ashton. Something like that.
Yeah.
I'm going off topic again. But
well, I'm impressed because I think my pathway in was like Black and Milds to Swishers, right? and then you get your first real cigar, right?
Oh, man. Yeah, mine was a real cigar the first time and then a pack of American Spirits, which still today is my favorite cigarette. I don't smoke them very often at all, but once in a while. There's a pack of, what are they called? American Spirit cigarettes that has been in my truck for about 3 years. Yeah, I don't think I've smoked one in a year. Yeah, I don't know if they're going to be any good anymore. Probably should throw those out. But yeah, Carmack's, we'd go up there senior year in high school and grab a cigar, sit in the back, feel super cool, while the dudes who probably run Noblesville Mafia or something are sitting in the back corner watching Godfather.
Making deals.
Yeah. It's a cool spot, though. Yeah. But, Noblesville's town square, I like it a lot. And in Mike's building, we got to go up like he's got a little patio on the roof, which is really cool, dude. And I'm like, man, if you liven that town square up, it would be such a cool place on the weekends.
Yeah.
And has that, but it has that old town square charm too that Westfield just doesn't have.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it ever really can have it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm a big proponent of the arts too. Mm-hmm. So I really feel like if we had like a theater downtown, it'd be even
that'd
cooler.
Be cool. Yeah.
So like back in the day, the Diana Theater that's up in Tipton, it actually used to be in Noblesville before they relocated.
Really?
Yeah, like historically. And so if we had some like performing arts place, whether it's painting, drawing, like an art exhibit, or whether it's performing arts, like a play, like a ballet, something like that. I think if you had that kind of entertainment, then people that are paying $1,500 a month for their single bedroom apartment love to go to that.
Yeah, that would be pretty cool. So we got public safety.
Yeah,
we've got
infrastructure.
Infrastructure. Yeah. And so then what are the other two again?
C is community.
Okay.
So I believe community involvement is key.
Okay.
I feel like you don't have a leg to stand on to complain about things if you're not willing to get in and make it change. Mm-hmm. Roll up your sleeves, get to work, serve, volunteer. Mm-hmm. And so I'm going to push for community involvement.
Okay.
We have a lot of things to do. You can entertain yourselves like we've been talking about. You got amenities like restaurants and places to shop, and you've got entertainment, sports, and concerts at I call it Deer Creek, right?
Klipsch, Deer Creek.
Ruoff.
Is it Ruoff right now? Is that what it is?
Yeah.
There's some cool concerts coming there this summer.
But, I mean, besides being entertained, you also need to grow up at some point and give back, right?
Yeah.
So, I think about, like from a biblical perspective, it's like when I was a child, I thought as a child, I reasoned as a child, but when I became a man, I put away childish things. And so I can't just be entertained. I just can't be a consumer my whole life.
Right.
At some point, I need to get involved.
Man, most people do that into their 40s nowadays. Isn't that ridiculous?
Yeah, I turned 40 this year.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm raising my hand.
There you go.
I'm getting in the fight.
Yeah.
I'm going to serve. I'm going to push other people to do it. And to steal a quote from JFK, ask not what your community can do for you, but what you can do for your community.
Yeah.
So there you go. I just
re-quote it.
There you go. Re-quoted it.
That's a Nick Gomillion quote now.
That's right. There you go. So community.
Yeah.
That's really what I'm pushing for. And the fourth one was kindness that we talked about, kind of leading as an example of kindness. Listening to people first before jumping to conclusions, assuming positive intent from my neighbors, not just labeling people and pushing them to the side.
Yeah. So, because I know that really up until recently, like till I owned a business in the local area, I didn't really care about local politics. And I care about federal politics, from, at least for a while, from a surface level. I wanted in office who I wanted in office. Of course, after seeing Trump get elected and then somebody who can barely form a sentence get elected. Not that I love everything about Trump by any means, but, he at least knew how to run the country as a business. Tax dollars were less, gas money was less.
My 401k was higher.
There's that too. So, guys, I think we are seeing the repercussions of our choices here. But anyways, we'll move on from that. But as a, on the local level, especially in my 20s, I didn't give a shit. I'm like, I don't want to get involved with these old dudes, So how can we liven up local politics and get people involved at a younger age and make it not just like your old school chamber of commerce and whatnot, but like how do you get younger people involved in that? Because I think that's where it starts. Just like they're indoctrinating kids in our education systems nowadays, how can we maybe not indoctrinate, but at least lead by example and lead younger guys into it? Because at the end of the day, it's the next generation that's going to be making the changes, right?
Yep.
So how do we feed that machine?
Yeah, so it starts with civics education. I've been taking my daughters with me to all these council meetings. Okay. So they get to see it firsthand. These meetings are open to the public. Mm-hmm. You can go see how your local government is run. And your local government, like I said earlier, impacts your daily life way more than the national stage. Mm-hmm. But everyone just associates with the national stage, right? So I would encourage you to get involved, to go pay attention, first of all, to try to understand the process. And it goes back to education, like you were talking about. We need to train the next generation. This is how our process works. This is how a bill is made. This is how it moves through committee, right, at the State House. These are how laws are passed. This is Robert's Rules of Decorum. Like how do you ask a question? How do you say, Madam President, or things like that. So it's all these things that we're not teaching in school, practical skills like writing a check, or something like
Balancing,
that. Yeah, balancing a checkbook.
Doing your taxes.
Yeah, but we also need to market it, like you said, to the younger generation.
Yeah.
And I think we're missing something with technology. Like people still have this mentality they have to show up on election day. They can only vote on election day. And in Indiana, we give you almost the 40 days prior to that, at least the first 30 days prior to election day to go and do early voting. I went and voted today. It took 5 seconds because there was no line. So yeah, you can go to the Judicial Center in downtown Noblesville, or you can go to the 4-H Fairgrounds and vote right now. Picnic, by the way. Little plug there.
Yeah, not picnic. Picnic. Yeah,
Nick.
There we go.
So it's education, but it's also marketing. I really think as technology progresses, we need to, now there need to be safeguards in place, right? So we need to make sure that who's voting is the actual person, whether that's through, you have to, I don't know if it's put in some kind of identification or
facial recognition. You can already do that.
We're not going to that. No, we're not doing chips or anything. Okay. Whether it's through an IP address or something, but I think we need to use technology to get more people involved in the process. Like, I think we need to adopt newer technology.
I think making it easier for people
make it easier to vote,
yeah.
right? But I mean, we want to make sure that there's safeguards. Like I said, we can't just have like a bunch of mail-in ballots.
Well, shit. If you can't do that on the federal level, I doubt it's going to be done on the state level.
Well, I trust the people at the local level way more than I trust the federal government.
No, that's fair. That's fair.
So I trust my neighbors who are looking at these voting machines and who are working at the polls and giving their time to make sure that this information, at least in Indiana, is safeguarded, and that there's a printed receipt of what I actually put in the machine.
Huh. That's interesting. Trusting the state government more than the federal government. I mean, the federal government was originally intended to basically control the federal military that was supposed to defend against attacks and, go to war if needed, and to mitigate or to mediate maybe between state governments, right? And now it controls everything.
Yeah. I mean, as sad as it is, everyone that's, crying 1776, we can't go back to 1776.
No.
I mean, that was ruined during FDR.
But could we go back to a decentral or a less, I don't want to say decentralized government, but how could we limit the federal government's power and make the state government have or allow the state government to have more? Because what I think is cool about that is that would be capitalism. That's capitalism on a larger level. I mean, city to city, I'm going to pick Westfield, Fishers, Noblesville, Carmel based on where who's got the best amenities, or for me, who's got the most land, which none. But that's why we're looking at buying somewhere else, somewhere. But then I'm looking at, if I am going to live in the suburbs, I live down the street from Midtown. Like, I can have a private yard, an acre lot, not have my house stacked on top of another, and ride my bike 10 minutes and be in Midtown. That's kind of cool when you have a young family. Fishers has something similar. Noblesville, you guys are getting there, and especially if you live near the town square, that's pretty cool. Westfield's starting to get there too. So, from a state level, I look at Michigan and I'm like, man, I think Michigan is absolutely beautiful. I love the UP. I love, northern Michigan, and there's beautiful land up there. I mean, it is as close to Montana as you're going to get on this side of the country. And yet that government is a total fucking shit show. The governor up there is a moron. She has backtracked numerous times. I'm not going to go into all the details. I'm sure that's going to, well, hopefully not. But anyways, so I would never move to Michigan because of that, even though it's a beautiful place. I look at Indiana and I go, you know what? We've actually got it pretty good here. Our gun laws are good. They're not over-controlled, but they do have regulations, which is good. That is still needed. But we don't have to register yet until the federal government mandates it. But even then, the state could fight against that, right? Yeah. You got Tennessee. I look at Tennessee. I'm like, okay, beautiful landscape.
No sales tax.
No sales tax, and I love that. Mm-hmm. Or is it no sales tax or no income tax?
No income tax.
No income tax, yeah. Which again, that's another thought I have on the tax system is like just go to a state tax or not a state tax, a sales tax, right? You just go to a flat tax on everything and you just pay for what you use. Cool. Toll roads, sure.
Even Florida, though, like necessary things like diapers and stuff, you don't get taxed on. For sales tax. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So
you could do things like
but
that.
if you're going to drink booze and smoke cigarettes and consume marijuana, tax the shit out of it. Yeah, for sure. So tax usage, not income.
Right.
I also think is another great way. And usually people who make more consume more, right? So great, they'll pay taxes on that, and that's how we kind of level the playing field in a sense. But yeah, like on the state level, you can choose where you want to live based on the politics, based on what you're getting out of it, based on the landscape,
competition,
right?
Free
competition. That's a good thing. So there was I can't remember this now. There was some sort of article I read, book I read. Man, it's gonna make me mad. I probably shouldn't even bring this up because I'm not gonna describe it well. But it was essentially like creating small cities within a state that are like they're all their own businesses in a sense. They're all locally run, local foods, local everything, and everything is consumed from that area.
Like a city state, huh?
Yeah. I feel like if we gave the states more power, we could do stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then if you don't believe in what you're dealing with the state, you move. Now I know that's tough for some people because they got families and all that kind of crap, but I don't mean crap. but at the same point, you could pick up and go. Like I've always said, if Texas secedes, I'm moving. I will move.
I was down there recently. It's a beautiful country. So.
It is. I've also heard from many friends that also love the outdoors that it's amazing, but I've also heard from some they're like, it's just too fucking hot here. But yeah, I think you decentralize the federal government a little bit and take the power away from these elitists and give it back to the ones who are the bulk of this country, the ones who really do run the country, or maybe not run the country, but they're the manpower in the country. You give that power a little bit back to them. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't know. Maybe I'm a pessimist here, but I feel like since the genie's out of the bottle at this point, you can't put them back in, right? It's like the federal government has their hands in everything. And it's like, how are you gonna deregulate the federal government? Reagan tried to an extent, but it's like, it's just so much. Like some people aren't awake enough to realize how much the federal government really controls.
Yeah. Well, no matter what side you're on, they control the narrative.
Yes.
Right now the narrative is more leftist, and it is more, social justice and whatnot, and equality. Yeah. One day it could swing the other way.
Yeah. Well, and it's the same. We could take a libertarian stance and say it's the same. It's one coin, two sides, right?
Yeah.
Same coin. It's like they let the pendulum swing this way for a little while, and then let it swing back the other way. But it's the same team, right? So,
and to be fair, like we don't know what is going on at those levels to the point where we badmouth their decisions. We don't know how much plays into it, and we don't know what all is going on under wraps that does play into that. However, you also got the Nancy Pelosi's of the world that are using their power to manipulate the market, and that's bullshit too. So. How do we take that, give that power back to the working man, so to speak? But of course, then just giving them that power make them the new force at B. It's again, there's always there's always evil with good. Right?
Yeah, I always think back to the book Animal Farm. Did you ever read that? I had to read it in school.
I can't remember if I read it
at some point.
Well, Nick, Let's be honest. I probably didn't read much in school.
Yeah. Okay.
I learned how to read when I was 25.
Yeah. So the gist of Animal Farm is like the animals on the farm can talk, right? But the farmer is just like this mean, authoritarian, like abusive farmer. Right?
Yeah.
And the animals think they can do a lot better, right?
Sure.
And they're like, we're gonna take over. We're gonna like kill the farmer, basically. Like take over. Everything's gonna be like a utopia, right? And so, they get rid of the farmer, and then the animals come in charge. Well, the pigs basically make themselves, one of them makes himself a dictator, basically.
Okay.
So this socialistic utopia that they dreamed of,
Mm-hmm.
is just a full cycle right back to where they were. And so, again, not to be pessimistic, but
Yeah.
If the common man overthrew this overreaching,
they're just going to get back to where the common man is now overreaching.
it could go that way,
Yeah,
right?
You can put lipstick on a pig.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
No, that is a good point. That I think that socialism would work in a utopian world, in a perfect world, but we have fallen to sin.
Right. We are selfish beings.
Yes. So socialism can never work because of that.
Yeah.
Socialism only works in a perfect world.
Yeah.
So that's some of their ideas could make sense in a perfect world. So it's not that they don't have the right idea. It's just, sorry, we're sinners. Yeah. We took a bite of that apple, and it's been all downhill ever since.
You're not naturally altruistic. You're not going to just...
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, nobody is that unselfish to make that work.
Yeah.
And if there is somebody out there that is, well, there is, Jesus Christ. But, we decided to crucify him instead of letting him fix the world. Anyways, yeah, so that's... We'll wrap that part of the conversation up. Nick, so how what is the legacy you want to leave?
Yeah, so I actually think about that daily. So my mom passed away back in 2014. She was only 57. And my mom was a huge advocate in my life. She was always pushing me into this leadership role. Like, I guess she had this vision of me as a leader. Maybe why she named me Nicholas, which means leader of the people.
Oh, love that.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
So that's what it means from the Greek. It's where we get Nike, so victory. And then Olos is like people, so victor of the people.
Oh, that's cool.
So she names me that, and then she basically created me into this Renaissance man where she puts me in all these different things throughout my life. So I did everything: baseball, soccer, football. I also sang in choir. I played an instrument. I took piano lessons.
Did you ever do ballet?
No, I didn't do that, no. My wife does, and my daughters do. So I let them handle the dancing. I do the music.
Yeah.
It's
a little piece people don't know about me.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah. I was forced into it.
What?
And then it was an excuse to dance with pretty girls.
Oh, there you go.
It was when I was like, what, third grade?
Hey.
Braden's like, what the hell? I never knew that about you.
Look at you.
Yeah, but that, because of that, I'm light on my feet now.
There you go.
Agile.
Nimble, yeah.
Nimble. Yeah, there we go.
Awesome.
Anyways.
Yeah, so the legacy, since my mother's passing, my own mortality has been on my mind almost daily. I think about, we're not promised tomorrow. So every day I get up and I thank God for this new day where I can, do something good.
Yeah.
I can serve. I can teach my daughters, And I want to leave my daughters, the same thing my mom instilled in me, and that's that work ethic. She kind of painted this picture where, I can dream big. And I can attain anything I put my mind to if I'm willing to do the work to get there. And I want my daughters to see that too. That's one reason I keep taking them to these council meetings. I take them with me when we knock doors because I say someday you may run for mayor, you may run for state government, you may run for president of the United States. If that's what you want, and you can get there too. But you have to work. You have to put in the work, right? You have to be willing to knock these doors when it's freezing cold or when it's super hot. You have to be willing to talk to people. You have to be willing to put in the sweat equity, right?
Yeah.
And so that's the kind of legacy I want to lead. I want to leave behind that they know I love them and that I would do anything for them. I was in a band back in college, and my dad basically took out a second mortgage on the home just so he could help fund my dream of being in a band, buy me a an old conversion van and a U-Haul trailer and all this equipment, so we could tour around. But I want to be like that for my daughters, invest in them for their future, see them succeed, going back to investing in other people and seeing them grow and succeed in life. And I do want them to be financially stable too. I want to get to a point where I feel like I have enough saved for them so that if I were to pass away, that they have, security in that. I mean, I'm not rich by any means. They're not going to have a trust fund. They're not going to be silver spooning.
What, you're not like the federal politicians who are billionaires?
No, man.
What?
Nobody's throwing money at me. No. This is grassroots, buddy. I only take money from individuals.
Okay.
So
fair enough.
Yeah. But anyway, it's that kind of legacy, you know. And the greatest thing I can give them right now is my time.
Yeah.
So giving family time, making sure that you're not just always thinking about business or you know, or campaigning or money. Or
I feel like that's why, you know, I would say the millennial generation is such a fatherless generation, and it's because the parents were so focused on work. It went past providing for my family and became greed, you know. And due to that, I mean, I've had multiple friends deal with those scenarios of they didn't have a father. I grew up without a dad, you know, and I mean, that was a little bit different of a situation. But you know, you don't have that male influence present. Men and women both need a mother and a father. Period.
Yep.
That's all there is to it. And you know, there's nothing else that needs to be said about that, but they just need both influences.
There's different attributes from each.
Exactly. There's both. Yeah, you need both attributes to develop a well-rounded child. And there's weaknesses I see in myself because I didn't have a father. Now, you know, like my wife has asked me, like, don't you want to meet your dad? I'm like, no, I don't care. It's just a wrench to throw in the gears at this point, you know. There's two things that happen. He's successful and you're like, cool, all right, I came from a decent dude, or he's a total piece of shit, and then I'm like, well, shit.
Right,
I came from that. I don't want to know.
Yeah.
I just don't want to know.
Yeah.
You know, plus my family's my family, you know, that's all there's to it. But anyways, you know, I think that we've seen that you gotta balance that family time. All these people preaching against balance, I don't think most of them have kids, and the few that do, I'd be curious to see what their kids think of them, and not just think of like, oh well, yeah, my daddy buys me a pony. He bought me a G-Wagon. No, I want to know like what the man has done for you as a man and as a father, like, you know, because at the end of the day, your kids aren't gonna reading your obituary aren't gonna be like, oh yeah, daddy bought me a G-Wagon. No, they're going to be like, oh, yeah, my dad spent time with me. Yeah. He helped walk me through these scenarios in life. He, you know, he stood up for me when I needed it and whipped my ass when I needed it too. And, you know, that's important. So family life balance is huge. Yeah. Yeah. That's really cool. Well, Nick, thanks for coming on today.
And thanks for having me. This has been a blast.
Yeah, we'll do it again, and good luck with the election.
Yeah, thank you.
Where can people find out more about you?
Yeah, so online, nickfornoblesville.com. That's spelled out F-O-R, so it's N-I-C-K-F-O-R, and then Noblesville, Noblesville.com. I'm also on social media on Instagram and Facebook, Nick for Noblesville.
Not Picnic?
No, Picnic's my hashtag, so hashtag Picnic.
Oh, okay, cool.
But yeah, it's just Nick for Noblesville.
Yeah.
And then Election Day is actually Tuesday, May 2nd for the primary. And then if I get past the primary, then I'll be in the general in November.
Awesome.
So
yeah,
we're hoping everyone participates and get out there and vote, no matter who you're supporting. But remember, local government impacts your life daily, so get involved.
Yeah. That's huge. That's huge. Guys, too, I haven't done this little plug yet, but go like, follow, subscribe. You know, we want you to hear what we got, what we're talking, who we're talking to, and, you know, would love to just, you know, hopefully have some sort of impact on our listeners. So go like, follow, subscribe. We're on YouTube, podcast, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Where else are we, Braden? Google? Spreaker? Whatever else there is. We're pretty much on all the podcast platforms, so go check us out. Nick, thanks again for coming on today.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Leave a legacy.
Leave a legacy. Boom.
All right, man.